Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today we are at another Stark Health event, and let me tell you, we have an all-star panel here. So just to dive right in, so we have, of course, the founder of Stark Health, Todd Vande Hei.
You can call me doctor.
Take the doctor out. Oh, sorry, doctor. It was, the founder of Stark Health, which is a Southern California-based healthcare company redefining what it means to practice medicine. At the heart of his mission is a shift away from reactive, pharmaceutical-dependent care and towards a proactive model grounded in root cause healing. Let's give it up for Todd.
Thank you.
All right, our second panelist, Dr. Resham Uttamchandani. Let me say it right, Uttamchandani. All right, I didn't butcher it, or maybe a little bit. And Dr. Resham is a double board certified physician in family and obesity medicine with specialized training in metabolic health, functional medicine, and longevity. Let's give it up for Dr. Resham. All right, just to get kind of a feel for who's in the audience, who here currently uses Stark Health? Okay.
Me too.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. Who here considers themselves kind of like more advanced in longevity and kind of follows the longevity space pretty closely? Awesome. Okay. So I have some questions here, and Todd, and as I kind of tee these up for both of you, I know I had to look up some of these, so I think for the audience it'll be helpful if we kind of go into some of the terms too, and just kind of go, beginner style, and we can get a little bit more advanced for everyone. Okay. So I know at the heart of what you're doing here, Todd, at Stark Health is rooted in root cause medicine. But even functional medicine, the focus can drift towards testing, supplements, rather than changing behavior. So how do we ensure that we're actually addressing the inputs, whether it's sleep, nutrition, mindset, or anything else, instead of just treating dysfunction in a more expensive way?
Well, I think you first have to have the right kind of testing in place to understand after you implement non-pharmaceutical approaches, whether or not they're working or to what degree they're working. And labs are very helpful for that. They're easily accessible. They're reasonably affordable. They're not comprehensive enough, in my opinion, though. By that I mean, in order to really know if you're heading down the right road with health optimization, you can't tell if you have my new friend over here who's a kite surfer, brother. He's a surgeon, so he naturally has forward head carriage. I'm not picking on you, you beautiful man. Yeah. So he's got forward head carriage, and anybody can check their ChatGPT or Google what happens over the course of 30 years if you have 3 inches of forward head carriage. That does not show up in labs. So it's not complete enough, because he is going to, without course correcting that, he's going to have orthopedic problems down the road, and he might have beautiful labs. I mean, as sexy as he looks on the outside are probably what his labs look like on the inside. You also have to understand what's going on in terms of body composition. If you have high visceral adipose tissue, for example, some labs will indicate that, or will be sort of surrounding that issue. You may have issues with bone mineral density. Labs won't indicate that either. You want to track these things over time as well, because these solutions, especially if they're natural solutions, the feedback loop is massive, right? Like if you're going to change your diet today and you're going to implement strength training and you want to make sure that you have great bone mineral density and you have exceptional body composition, how long do you think it will take to get to that point where you think you've arrived? Anybody want to just venture a guess? 6 months. That's a possibility. Anybody else? A year? 5 years? 2 months? It depends on what your goals are. It depends how aggressive you are. It depends on whether or not you push too hard. Like, what if you do 2-a-days for 2 months and you get there, the third month, you're going to fall apart because of the hormonal impact. Because our bodies don't work in silos. The body is everything is connected, believe it or not. Your brain to your penis, to your everything else. It's all interconnected. There's no separation. And because of the lack of separation, you have to treat the body as a whole, as a single. And that's where things get really complex. So you have to have comprehensive, holistic testing solutions in order to understand to what degree what you're implementing works. Yeah.
Dr. Resham, so root cause, how do we make sure that we're, instead of just treating dysfunction in a more expensive way, how do we make sure the inputs are addressed?
So I want to address this by giving you a little bit of history about where I first started working. So after residency, my first job was Kaiser Permanente. I was in a very traditional model, and I was just seeing patients every 15 minutes, ordering the exact same labs that are covered with insurance, and that's your CBC, CMP, A1C, lipid panel, and TSH, those 5 labs. And I can't tell you the number of times patients came back with all their labs normal, but they did not look healthy. And there was no time to really dive into their diet and their sleep. I wanted to, but the system didn't allow me. As I progressed in my career and ended up, with Concierge MD and other companies, I have now learned that if we don't address the inputs, which is sleep, muscle, diet, nervous system regulation, and I think the 5th one for me is connection, community, and purpose. I think it's not going to matter whether you have all these expensive labs and everything looks great on paper, but if you don't feel good, that to me is the biggest indicator. I think having purpose is also often overlooked. Nervous system regulation as well. I think there's a lot of times patients can be doing all the healthy habits, right? Checking the box of, oh, I meditated today. Oh, it becomes like a checklist, but they're still anxious. And I think once you break it down to understanding that you want to keep your body in a parasympathetic rest and digest state, that's when your body really heals. So trying to explain to patients, the basics. And I caught myself on my drive here, and I was stuck in traffic, and I hit every red light, and I tried to get here at 5 o'clock, and I just remember I could feel every cell in my body getting to that, the sympathetic system overreacting. And I was like, wait, my body doesn't know whether it's like a red light and I'm like scared that I'm late or nervous, or a lion is attacking me. There is no difference, and your body is going to react the exact same way. Stress is stress. So the better that we can manage and control it, the better your body will heal, and every area of your body will calm down and actually reduce the inflammation. And I think chronic stress is like a big part of it.
Man, you described my whole ride over here. That's good. And I swear I saw a lion. I'll take it. All right. Let's get into longevity clinics and testing. I feel like many longevity clinics are obsessed with advanced testing. There's something new coming out every day. I'm getting it in my inbox. I'm like, what's going on? What am I supposed to be doing now? Telomeres, transcriptomics, many different markers. How many of these markers are actually needed, and how do they translate into meaningful lifespan or health span outcomes? So which metrics do we really need?
That's all you.
Okay. I would say my favorite ones are VO2 max. That's a big one for longevity. Grip strength. And I would say fasting insulin. Oftentimes we check A1C, but the fasting insulin tells us well in advance if you're developing insulin resistance or how insulin sensitive your body is. Of course, lipoprotein A and B and all of the, the little molecules of your lipid panel. I would say another one would be, trying to think, what else am I always checking? I think that's like the basics. I think we dive too deep, and then patients often get confused, but just keeping it simple with VO2 max and grip strength, I think, are the hallmarks of longevity.
I would throw in a DEXA scan for body comp.
Of course. Sorry.
And a DEXA scan for bone mineral density.
Yes.
So those are basic. You don't have to do them very often. They're fairly affordable, fairly reasonably accessible. And I would also throw in, this is a little bit harder, an orthopedic assessment that you do on a periodic basis. So you can plot a point in time how you're moving, your neck mobility, shoulder mobility, hip mobility, the major joints, the major areas of your body that are going to cause you problems down the road. And then spot check those. I do that all the time. But if you want to do it the least amount of time, maybe every couple of years, so it's really not that big of a deal, to get a sense as to whether or not you're heading in the wrong direction. Even better, which is my pursuit, to head in the right direction. Like my hip mobility, for example, was a giant limiting factor. I had low back problems, all corrected, course corrected. My goal today is, and I share this thought with you, like if your goal is to improve your visceral adipose tissue, as an example, have it be optimal. I don't care if you're 60 or 70, like you can have the visceral adipose tissue of an optimally healthy 25-year-old male at any age, doesn't really matter. And from a hip mobility standpoint, I know I'm not going to get to like a young gymnast, but I'm trying to get into the splits, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to fail, but I'm pursuing it. And maybe in 20 years, I'll be able to do the middle splits. I don't really care. The point is recognizing where you're starting and periodically measuring and do things in the middle that you think are going to move the needle forward in terms of your health. And then measure again. Make sense?
That's why I like coming to these every month, Todd. Right there, you're always setting a new goal. I'm like, man, to be able to do, come on. I'm like, I'm in. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I'm in.
I don't either.
Yeah. All right. When we talk about, where's the line between innovation and dependency? So if we're thinking about like pharmaceutical interventions, whether it's GLP-1s or metformin, like where's that line?
Yeah, I can go first. I don't think it's a line. I don't think there is a line. It's very blurry. I think that I hope our team, our medical team at Stark, looks at new interventions, pharmaceutical or otherwise, with an open mind and a certain degree of enthusiasm and skepticism. Like what's the downside? You know, like the early, when Ozempic rolled out, it was pretty obvious to us that it's going to be a bone mineral density problem. And now, but it doesn't mean that it's a category of drug or peptide that should never be used. So the question was, well, how do we use it? And we began microdosing it, and it sort of turns off the food chatter. I haven't tried it myself. I want to, but our head clinician won't let me do it, just to see if I don't like crave cookies at night. I don't want to crave cookies. But I do.
Throw out that guinea pig thing.
Yeah, so I want to see, like, even for me, which is a giant sugar problem, even for me, can it turn that food chatter off? That'd be very interesting. Also, when we consider these interventions, we wonder, well, what's the downside of not having to struggle against food chatter? Like, think about that for a minute. If everything is easy, the things that are difficult to accomplish become less fulfilling. You know, so if I make it through that day without eating a cookie, and I'm going to bed and I'm doing my grateful journal like I have done for so many years, I do all the things, I feel like I've accomplished something if I didn't eat the cookies. And that goes away with the drug that prevented the food chatter. And I don't have that thing anymore, that sense of accomplishment, which I think leads to joy. Greater health comes from joy. So these new interventions are to be looked at, I think, with skepticism and excitement and potential, and to be careful as well. Yeah.
Any comment?
Yes. I love GLP-1 medications. I prescribe them quite often. I think they are a great tool for patients that have struggled. And I think when I was in medical school, we didn't know a lot about these drugs. We knew them as diabetic drugs. And then we later found out that they had side effects that could help. You know, it provided weight loss, a pretty substantial amount of weight loss as a side effect. And then we discovered that it could help with obesity. Now, obesity is such a complex, multifactorial chronic disease that has many causes. So it could be genetics, it could be perimenopause or menopause, decreasing your estrogen and progesterone, and the body fat composition moves around, and you have it more around, it's visceral fat and around your abdomen. And I think for patients that have struggled with obesity for a very long time, and you present this option to them after they have tried everything under the sun, every diet, keto to strength training, and nothing works, it's a tool, but they should not become dependent. I think the key is to help them realize that this can help them get to their goal sooner. And once they start to see those results and they see the fat started dropping from their body, it provides them with the encouragement that they can do this. But if they're just stuck on a keto diet and they're doing all the right things, but they're not seeing progress, anyone would give up and lean in for the cookies. So I think it's really important to offer them this solution, but to also tell them that they will lose bone density. That's inevitable. They will lose muscle, because anytime you lose weight, you lose fat and muscle. Whether you're doing the keto diet, whether you're doing any diet, any weight loss leads to fat and muscle loss together. Now, what you need to also factor in is strength training as well as the protein consumption. I don't think you're part of this, but most people probably eat very less protein than they're supposed to. When you do the calculation of how much protein your body needs, it's a lot. It's a lot. And for someone to reach that amount of protein per day, you're going to be extremely satiated that you may not even reach that goal because you're just so full from the previous meal. And I just try it this week whenever you get a chance. Just calculate how much protein you need. So it's 1 pound per body weight, and see if you can reach that and try doing it for the day. And that's how much your body needs to maintain muscle and create muscle. So I always counsel patients on this part too. But GLPs are not a one-size-fits-all, and it's not a Band-Aid, and it's not a quick fix. It's a tool to help them get there, because the alternative is them living with this weight and then having the risk of developing chronic disease, including cancers and other things that obesity can lead to, including, other mechanical issues. So I think I just want them to get metabolically healthy as soon as possible, as well as the activity and the motivation, and to have a better life, because life, you want to expand, you want them to enjoy their life and live out their purpose and be happy and be with their kids and run around and not feel this burden that the weight provides. And a lot of times when you dive deeper into their history, you find out a lot of it is emotional too. And so you have to, layer by layer, remove each part and address each area of their health to determine what it is that's causing the obesity.
Can I just add to this
Yes.
little protein conversation? Protein is just fascinating to me. It's even though we've been at this for almost 15 years, it's still a hurdle for both men and women, even more so with women. But I like to refer to, kind of jokingly, as protein is like nature's Ozempic. And it is that way because it sort of cuts back on the food chatter that I described I have at night when I want to eat the cookies. And so it does that because it's inefficient. It takes a lot of energy to break down and absorb protein. And so you remain full. It's very, very satiating. As a matter of fact, if you were stuck in the wild and all you had access to was like a wild elk that you somehow wrangled to the ground and you fed on for a month, you would starve to death because you would be lacking in calories. And so it's because we don't live like that. This is a concept that I want you guys to have sort of in your head, because she mentioned that you have to eat, or you should be eating 1 ounce of protein per ideal pound of body weight. That's a lot. If we did this 100 years ago when we were farmers, we would have problems. We would be starving to death. But because we're sedentary, we don't move as much. I move a lot. Like I move about 8 miles a day. And I still need to eat a lot of protein in order to make it happen from a health standpoint. So it's probably the greatest, most natural, most powerful, life-changing lever you can pull if you can pull it. But you know how hard it is.
Nature's Ozempic.
Yeah, you can steal that.
Yeah.
Todd, you mentioned something, and I just want to stick there a little bit longer, especially for the individuals that are new and haven't been to Stark before. You said, you wanted to try, but they wouldn't allow you to. So not specifically that treatment, but just in general. I know we've had this discussion before. Can you talk a little bit about maybe the founding of Stark and how you you were the original guinea pig. I think that was the word you used.
Probably not guinea pig, but crash dummy.
There we go. That was the word.
Yeah, the original crash dummy. Well, I in the early years of Stark, I didn't really know what my background is in manufacturing, so I didn't know anything about fitness. I knew what one of those barbells was, and that's about. I actually didn't know what to do with it, and injured myself quite a bit by trying to figure it out. And teamed up with a great strength coach and a nutritionist. And there's a guy named Charles Poliquin. I don't know if you guys have heard of Charles Poliquin. He's a famous strength coach from Canada, well known for training Olympic athletes and hockey players for some reason. And he would hold clinics and train strength coaches. And he designed what he used to call the meat and nut breakfast. And I actually don't eat nuts anymore, but that kind of got me started down that road. And this was in 2011. And by 2012, you guys all remember the headlines popping up around how red meat causes cancer and heart disease. And we had students coming in, which is our term for clients and patients, coming into my office saying, hey, you guys trying to kill me? Like, I just went to see my doctor. He said everything looks great, but I told him what I was eating. And he's like, well, don't do that. Don't do that. This is the new research. Be careful. And after like the fifth one, I decided, well, maybe I'm dying too. And so I went to see my doctor, and he told me the same thing. And I just didn't understand. I didn't understand their educational limitations. And he didn't express them to me. He didn't tell me that he really, in medical school, didn't learn about nutrition. And so I was confused by it, brought my labs back. My business partner, who was also a nutritionist, looked at them and said, you look beautiful from the inside. And there I was. Do I trust this unlicensed strength coach that was trained by the Canadian? Or do I trust my medical doctor?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to trust him, this guy, but I feel like I should trust that guy. And so I tried to get them together, and the medical doctor would not. I didn't ask for much of an explanation. He just refused. I actually went to the receptionist too, and I'm like, hey, do you think I can like bring my guy over here and get us all into a room? And she's just like, no. She shut me down. And so I was angry and confused, and I'm driving back to my office and thinking, well, I want a group of experts that don't share the same educational background. I don't want a group of MDs. I don't want a group of nutritionists. And I certainly don't want a group of chiropractors. Little chiropractic joke. Because I don't want a group of them, because they all have a lot of value that they bring to the table in the way of perspective. And if they're all sharing the same goal, which is to take my body, as in this particular instance, and lead me to a state of optimal health, I want their varying perspectives. I wanted my MD to chime in about going on Lipitor or whatever he was telling me to do at that point. My total cholesterol was 207. My HDL was 80. I don't know. LDL was 120-ish. I don't know what the particles were. We weren't testing back then. I don't know if Boston Heart existed. I don't know. Anyway, it was just cursory type stuff, basic stuff like you were doing at Kaiser. So I just decided, because no one would do what I wanted that were already in their positions and I couldn't bring them together, that I would just create it. And that's what this is. So it's a team that virtually or literally like standing around you, from Dexatex to NMDs to MDs to chiropractors, training program designers and strength coaches. They're all buzzing around me as the original ground zero patient. And that's what Stark does for everybody that steps into our ecosystem. That debate occurs. Today it occurs in Microsoft Teams. Back then it was like, Joe, what do you think of this? Maybe quite not like that.
All right, so one more question, then we're gonna open it up for the audience, okay? So get those questions ready. All right. So growing interest in hormone optimization, testosterone, and for the thyroid, should we be talking about lifestyle drivers that suppress hormones in the first place? Or where should this be in general in terms of when we're prescribing? Should it be, where does it fit in our health overall?
Oh, this is going to be a fun one. We're going to just talk about this together. Because you got your clinical experience. I'm a patient.
Yes, okay.
All right, this is going to be really good.
I think if you don't have the fundamentals down, nothing's going to work. It's all going to, you're just going to need the testosterone, you're going to need the hormone replacement therapy, and nothing's going to function as optimally, and you're not going to see how good it can really get. And I think one of my biggest fans right now is peptides. If you haven't tried them or heard of them, I just think it's extremely fascinating. We have a peptide called CJC, which is a growth hormone-like peptide. So it's not necessarily giving your body testosterone or giving your body progesterone or estrogen. It's telling your body to make more of its natural hormone. And what's amazing about that is that you're not going to suppress your body's ability to make that hormone. You're encouraging it by signaling your body to make more versus telling your body hey, I have enough testosterone. You gave me exogenous testosterone. I shouldn't make any more. But there's obviously certain cases that exogenous testosterone works really well. So I think it's about understanding each patient's unique case and addressing it with an open mind and seeing all factors, especially their lifestyle, because it will give you clues into areas that they can work on and things that can really enhance their health. I mean, just waking up in the morning, getting sunlight in your eyes within the first hour, eating protein at breakfast, strength training 2 to 3 times a week. We're not talking about a lot of strength training, but even 2 to 3 times a week will move the needle when it comes to your hormones. Again, emotional or nervous system regulation and emotional connection. Those are my 5.
Okay, I've never counted mine. But whether it's through peptides or testosterone replacement therapy or hormone replacement therapy, as you get older, there's a likelihood that eventually you're going to have to replace your hormones. And there's all sorts of things you can do when you're younger. Like we have, this is really fascinating. We have 18-year-old boys come in and have their hormones tested, and 50-year-old fathers that come in with them. And the 50-year-old fathers have higher testosterone levels, which is disturbing because, I didn't have mine tested when I was 18, but I remember the things I did and the things I thought and the things that came out of my mouth and the car accidents I was in and the attempts at teenage pregnancy. Those things aren't happening anymore. I looked at statistics around car accidents, teenage pregnancies, and drunk driving accidents in general. And speeding tickets and running red lights. It's all available, actuarial science. And they're all down like 35%. Young men are not doing the things that young men used to do. So it's fascinating. And you talk about lifestyle, like change your lifestyle, then use a peptide, right? Or hormone replacement. Those are great. Okay, so if we're talking about men, it's generally going to be 40 plus, 50 plus, something thereabouts. But young men, they have all the tools in the toolbox. They're just suppressing them. And so the solution is purely lifestyle. It is no more porn, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning. No more Xbox. Have you played Xbox? Come on, you're not going to admit it, are you? We got one back there, an Asian. Figures. No, I'm sorry. I can be racist. I'm married to an Asian. You too. Yeah. There's more Xbox players or whatever people play nowadays. When I was a kid, when I was 16, I played Pong with my brother, and it was exciting for like 12 minutes. Atari. It was terrible. It was terrible. Today, you are in the game, and while you're in it, let me just take a shot at the hormonal cascade. Cortisol levels through the roof. You can see it in their eyes. I remember my son. He was too far deep. I saved him. I told you that. He's like, I had to save him from this disaster. His eyes were like so bloodshot. I'm like, are you smoking weed? This was before he ever smoked weed. Because he was so exhausted. And what happens to your sex hormones when your cortisol levels are super high? They're suppressed. So you got this 16-year-old boy that's supposed to have testosterone levels that are bouncing off the ceiling, and he's so annoying, and he stinks a little from that whole thing. And he doesn't know how to speak to girls, but he is compelled to, and go on dates with them and at least try. Those things aren't happening. And it's because I think their sex hormones are suppressed. They're not behaving like young men. I started researching this because I employed them, not that young, but 25-year-olds, 24-year-olds, 23, 26, 28-year-old men. They are not the same. It's kind of scary. As a matter of fact, we have a coach here, Emma, who will not date someone her age. I'm not going to say what your age is, but she's freaking young. So she has I don't know how old Mikey is. He's 30 years old or something, way older than she is. And I'm just going to guess this, Emma. Sorry to pick on you, but she can't find an actual man to date because they're not acting like men, because they don't have the hormones on board, because they're too busy looking at all the world's porn. And I empathize with them. I mean, if I were 16, you couldn't get me out of the bathroom if I had an iPhone. Think about it. Dude, you can understand this. It's not the same problem with women. It just isn't the same problem with them. They can turn away, and when men suffer something emotionally, they isolate, and they pull their phone out and look at porn, and they play Xbox, and they try to heal themselves and come out the other end the victor, right? Women, they get together with their girlfriends, and they cry. This is how they process. And they work it all out, You're like, oh yeah, I don't need him, right? And then you go and you bounce back and you become healthy. And so young women are way healthier than young men. That's why they're not matching up. At least is my theory anyway. Okay, so on the issue that we're talking about, hormones, most of us just need to eat better and sleep more and meditate and don't look at social media or porn or play Xbox in the middle of the night, which is going to be highly disruptive, and clean up your diets. And that 20-year-old or 18-year-old is going to soon start getting into car accidents and get girlfriends pregnant and stuff. But then we'll know we're on the right track anyway. Like humanity is saved. You know what I mean? We'll be on the right track. And young women like Emma will date other young men again, which is the way it was when I was in my 20s. I don't know. Was it like, who's old here? You're old. You're old. You're old. I mean, when we were in high school, did you have 22-year-old friends that were female that dated 40-year-olds? I don't know. I don't think I had any like that. There was one girl. Whoa, she was wild. But everybody else, like, we're all like the same age, like 1, 2, 3 years of different, right? It's a different world today. 2 years was okay, right? It's different. And I believe it all stems from hormones. And so everyone in this room will benefit by doing the things that she's talking about. And when you need them, peptides can be a great solution. When you need TRT, it's an amazing solution. And at both of those levels, as per my experience, it knocks you back physically to when you were much younger, like at your optimal, like 30 theoretically, before andropause kicks in, which is the gradual decline of testosterone for men. And then women are much more complicated. We should talk briefly about women. They're my favorite gender. For many reasons, mostly because the science behind it is super complex.
Yes, so as we age and as women hit 35, we start entering the perimenopausal age bracket. And during this time, estrogen and progesterone start to slowly decline. And you see everything from irritability to hot flashes to insomnia and then the visceral fat. So fat moves from your hips and to your belly. And then I often see patients complaining about women that are doing exactly the same thing that they were doing in their early 30s, strength training, eating the exact same diet, and all of a sudden they have a gut that they can't get rid of. And more than that, their hormones are so out of balance that they're just moody all the time. They are just, I mentioned the irritability, which can affect their day-to-day life. They're raising young children at this time, their life is starting, and they have to be functional at work. And a lot of this time, GLPs, as well as hormone replacement therapy and peptides can be a great addition and supplement to help them get back to being functional again.
All right. I'm glad you came with it today, Todd. I like it. Let's get some questions, please.
Thank you both. By the way, thank you, Adam and Gerard, for hosting. 4 years ago, I knocked out a post-grieving trauma, fourth chakra imbalance. I had very aggressive asthma using a combination, I was telling Emma, using a combination of a Reiki specialist in Long Beach and an Ayurvedic practitioner near Paramount in Hollywood. It sounds woo-woo and fictional, but literally it knocked it out, knocked it the F out, whereas kind of standard syllabus practitioners weren't able to. 22 years ago, I knocked out very severe lower back pain using John Sarno's TMS theory, mind-body medicine. That's a long-winded way of asking how receptive could Stark be, with all due respect to your training and residency and background, to Eastern or Southern Hemisphere healing traditions and hoisting them with some credibility, because you're begging the question, porn, any addiction is due to trauma. The depression factors, fat that doesn't go away is due to stress from cortisol from stress. And how could there be more of a holistic method? How could Stark be groundbreaking in that sense of infusing the physical fitness with traditional medicine and then traditions from other parts of the world in a way that would actually kind of correct or inform mainstream medicine. We have MDs here that are very dissident or that are also like questioning and wanting to get a sense of what actually works versus just commissioning. And how receptive is Stark to being able to diversify it, at least being receptive to these other traditions?
Oh, that's a great question. I love them all. I'm greedy when it comes to approaches to better health. And, well, matter of fact, we integrate, meditate. When I first started meditating 14 years ago, it was really like fringy, woo-woo, hippie. And I'm not that guy. And I can't tell you how powerful that's been in my own health journey. And breath work, and exercise, and getting sunshine. And I mean, sunshine, I don't know, like 10 years ago that was not a health tool, right? It's skin cancer, yeah. What's that?
Vitamin D.
Vitamin D, yeah, vitamin D. And I learned how vitamin D helps build sex hormone receptors, and I have a general understanding of why that's critical in the experience of your experience of actually having high sex hormones. Without the sun, you can't actually fully experience it, which is interesting. We all kind of know this because of how great we feel in summer, right? We spend time kite surfing, my brother, and we feel better. And some of it's because of the activity and being in the water, but some of it's from the sun. So I'm totally open. There are, from a business structure standpoint, it's hard for us to add another discipline, but our team refers out. Like, if somebody said, what do you think about Reiki? We'd be like, hell yeah, like, go do it. If you believe in it and you do it consistently enough, it's a powerful tool. What about breath work? Well, yeah, hell yeah, you should do that. We can explain the reasons why biochemically it will matter for you, but we don't do those things internally. What we do internally are the things that we believe we can approach in a very unique way and are critical inside of our ecosystem. But I'm a great example of someone that is a AAA personality and recognize that all of my health problems are primarily psychological, emotional. And I'm working hard right now, right in front of you guys, to become a type B personality. I've been working on it for like 8 years. So I'm a failure. My type A personality tells me, you're failing as a type B personality. My type B personality is like, it's cool, bro, So these are, I think today, medical practitioners also believe that these things matter. And in the early, like the dark ages of Stark, no one believed that they mattered. So we have come a long way. Functional medicine is a term that most people understand today. And when I first heard the term, it was from my business partner. I was just like, giant internal eye roll. Hopefully I suppressed that and didn't, exhibit that, like thought he was kind of full of crap. But today, it's the way to approach medicine, especially at a primary care level, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's incredible that you found a tool or intervention to help with your condition. Ayurveda, which is an ancient Indian wisdom, uses the concept of energy constitution. So there are 3 types, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And the goal is to be tridoshic, which means that all of those energy types are balanced. And I don't usually talk about this often because I don't know which patients are receptive to it, but it's definitely a modality I add into my practice. Because, for instance, when I'm feeling fiery and just like stressed, I know that I'm a Pitta, but you can take a quiz online. And I know that there are foods like cucumber and certain dairy products that can help me calm my Pitta energy to become more Kapha and Vata. And it's essentially having reflux, and so you are eating foods that can calm the reflux. So I think it's a very interesting modality to supplement everything else, and I love that you found that, and that was helpful.
Or chakra balance.
Yes, and not a lot of doctors are very much interested in that, but there are quite a few that are. So in addition to that, acupuncture, I think, that is one that now has become very trendy, but also it works really well. I have a lot of patients that suffer with infertility and have used this acupuncture to help them get pregnant, and I think it's fascinating.
All right, we'll go for one or two more. Let's go.
Can you explain a little bit the difference between visceral and subcutaneous fat? Which ones are going to go first when you're losing weight? Which ones are better to hold on to? I understand a little bit about both of them, but not enough.
Sure. So subcutaneous fat is the fat that you can pinch. The fat that you can literally use your two fingers and pinch on your belly, and that's what you see. Visceral fat is the fat around your organs. That's the more dangerous fat. That's the fat that we are scared of, that's metabolically active and inflammatory, that can cause disease. That's the fat surrounding all the organs internally that you don't necessarily see. But that's the one that we want to target. It's hard to say which one's going to, be reduced first, but essentially visceral fat will go down more likely because that's the one that's the first one to improve with the GLPs. The subcutaneous is what you see after. So a lot of times there's a lot of improvements going on in your body internally and all the pathways, but then you won't really see the difference in your physique until later. That's kind of like when you start working out at the gym, you're not going to see an improvement in your physique maybe until 2 or 3 weeks later. So that's when you see the difference. That's the subcutaneous fat going down. But the visceral fat's happening, behind the scenes. That's something that you don't see.
As an alternate perspective, inside of the Stark ecosystem where everybody's working out, and we're attempting to influence dietary changes. Not always successful, mostly successful, but sometimes not. Visceral adipose tissue is very, very fast to go away if those levers are pulled. And I'm not talking about pharmaceutical interventions. You throw those in and it changes the dynamics a bit. Subcutaneous fat takes a long time. And when I say very fast, I mean, who's a drinker in here? I'm not picking on you. There we go. Okay, I can see his waistline. My friend back here, great looking guy, and you dress really well. I wish I had the pepper. I just have the salt, so that kind of sucks for me. But you have roughly 2.5 pounds of visceral adipose tissue. I can see it. Your one button, right where your belly button is pushing out a little bit. I'm not picking on you. He's a beautiful man. He's a beautiful man. Okay, so if you stopped drinking completely, and for many people it's very, very difficult because it's like a rhythm to your day, and you get home, you unwind, you have a scotch or whatever. If you stop drinking, you will likely lose 1 to 2 inches on your waist, and it will all come from visceral adipose tissue. It's very, very fast. And it is dangerous, and we also see it in labs. So we would see that on a DEXA scan. Maybe I'm 1/4 pound off. Not 2.5, maybe 2 1/4 or 2 3/4, something like that. But you also likely have high triglycerides. And so when we see those two things go together, you are a drinker, or you're a Mormon who eats a lot of sugar, or you're me. I have a lid on the sugar, but it's a battle, right? I win it most of the time. But you understand what I'm saying? It's a very fast form of fat to lose, but it's difficult because of the changes that you need to make in your lifestyle, right? And it's very important. Like as she said, it's the dangerous fat too.
So is subcutaneous cellulite subcutaneous?
Yes, essentially. That's the more superficial fat.
It's what creates the beautiful shape of young women, and that goes away, and then you, like in menopause, right?
Yeah.
But you can replace it with muscle. You can replace it with muscle and keep that shape, right? You're bound to lose some of that fat as it starts to redistribute. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what confuses me is a lot of this is supplements. It's a whole list of supplements. I have friends who take 30 supplements a day, and other friends who don't take any. You guys, each one of you, have your own take on supplements, how much, when, and what works and what doesn't work.
You want to go first? Or?
I can. Either one. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of junk out there. I created my own supplement for depression and anxiety after suffering with depression and being on a medication for depression because I was looking for alternatives. As I was going through this process, I learned that there is no FDA regulation for anything out there. There is no one's overseeing anything sold on Amazon, and it's the wild, wild west. you have no idea what you are consuming. Don't get me wrong, I think there are a few supplements that I would strongly recommend for every patient. That would be vitamin D and omega, and depending on your labs, there are a few, but that doesn't mean that you don't eat a nutritious diet. It's not going to replace anything. I think it can enhance. For instance, vitamin D, everyone I know is deficient, including my surfer patients who are out in the sun. And most doctors in the traditional system want to get vitamin D levels to above 30. That's what we are taught. But that's not an optimized level. You want it 50 to 80, and some doctors can even argue higher than that. And so I think you do need supplementation, and finding a good, reputable company. There are quite a few out there that have been third-party tested. I think that's the key to remember, is to look for the third-party testing.
Does cortisol chew up vitamin D, stress cortisol?
It's a more complicated, it's a more complicated pathway than that. I can't answer that yes or no, but I would say that vitamin D, everyone is deficient. And if you can just try and get your labs at least 50. And if your doctor is saying 30 is normal, just ignore that, because you will feel a difference in your overall health if you just optimize vitamin D.
Okay, so let me just add some things to this. You beautiful man. You're dark-skinned, beautiful man. For you to not need a supplement, you would have to kite surf 7 days a week all day long and be in the sun the whole time and not have like sunscreen on. So it's possible, like our forefathers weren't deficient in vitamin D. Here's the way I look at our bodies. Like it or not, we are all designed to be hunter-gatherers. We are the descendants of hunter-gatherers. And so the way we used our bodies, the way we lived our lives, was mostly outside in all of the elements, walking around slowly. Any hunters in the room? No? I became a hunter because of this, by the way, so I guess I'm the only hunter. And I know what it's actually like to hunt. You walk slowly, you look down, you look around, you squat down, you pick up like a piece of poop, and you look at it and you're like, oh, this is old, so there's not an animal here recently. That's what you do. And you're moving all day long, not aggressively, and then periodically you're successful and you shoot this 400-pound animal and you have to carry pieces of it out 8 miles. And those little bursts of energy over long periods of time of not much energy, always outside in the elements in the sun, shivering, sweating, being comfortable little pieces of time, but really not most of the time. Our bodies are designed for that. And so it became apparent to me when I went to the island of Lanai and I hunted with a Filipino guy who's been a hunting guide. He was my age, so I'm 57, he's like 56 or something. He's been hunting there since he was 19. And he moved like a cat. And he was like physically, to be honest, he looked like me, but I'm doing all these things to create that. And he just is hunting. But he moves better. I sat at a desk in an airplane, in a car, on the sofa for decades. So my hip flexors are short, low back problems, all the things, the ravages of modern living. He had none of them. And his eyesight is great. His skin, I'm like looking at him, looking at his butt, looking at his face, his skin. I'm like, this guy is a beautiful specimen of how we're all like him, genetically speaking. But he's using his epigenetics to flip on all the right switches. So we have the potential, but we're never going to get there. Like, you're never going to get there. You're in surgery all day long. So you got to take vitamin D, bro. Yeah.
All right.
So you mentioned acupuncture a few minutes ago, and he was talking about Reiki and some other Eastern traditions. When I was young, I was an exchange student to China. I was one of the first ones from the United States. And I hung out with traditional Chinese medicine doctors, and they tried to explain their ideas to me, and some of it stuck, and some of it didn't. But one thing that I saw was acupuncture. And then eventually, when I came back to the United States, I was interested in it, and qigong and everything that they do. And then I noticed after a while, the
Western medicine was very hostile to Eastern traditions, but then eventually insurance started paying for acupuncture. And so you got Western medicine, or at least the insurance companies who had Western medicine, Western medical advisors said, yeah, this works. We don't know how it works, but it works. So it was like, acupuncture came from millions of people over thousands of years, trying it. So I'm really interested in your approach, which sounds like a team of rivals talking to each other, and they're all from different traditions. And what we want is what works, right? So how do they ever sit around in a room and just talk to each other and try and convince each other, and who wins?
Well, the patient's in the conversation too.
Yeah.
So if you want Reiki and you believe that that's going to work, just believing it's going to work means it's more likely going to work, right? So there's a heavy, heavy influence that our, like I said, I think I told you guys that we refer to our patients as students. And the reason we refer to them as students is because we believe that skill or health is a skill or a set of skills. And then when you slowly stack them up over years, you become really, really good at it. Like, the hunter guy didn't really have to think much about it.
Health is a skill podcast.
Health is a skill, yeah. And so the patient has a giant influence over that. And none of our practitioners would ever say, oh, don't do that, that's a bunch of BS. I don't know that we would label anything as BS, to be honest. If something worked for 1,000 years, there are probably exceptionally beneficial elements to it. And that we don't know. Oh, this is another primary part of our culture inside of Stark, is that we're all peers. There's no hierarchy. We believe that we don't know everything about the human body. I mean, duh. We actually don't. Everybody knows that, but we approach the human body with that level of humility because that enables us to learn and develop as a team. So in the future, we may have Reiki practitioners. We may do acupuncture. It just depends on, a lot of it's driven by consumer awareness, because when somebody believes in something, like 10 years ago or in 2012, if we thought the carnivore diet was the way to go, and we told everybody in the face of these headlines that red meat causes cancer and heart disease, but oh, by the way, do the carnivore diet, like that would have been bad timing, right? We couldn't lead anybody through that. And so a lot of this is consumer awareness. It's a very exciting time actually in medicine, as you know, as you're sitting here as a functional medicine doctor. And a couple years ago, I was at a little convention listening to RFK Jr. speak about functional medicine and psychedelics, and he's running for president. I was like, what is going on around here? Like, things have shifted a lot, and they're shifting in the right way. So, I would imagine in the future, medical doctors may be learning about these alternative medical procedures in medical school, potentially, or it will become fragmented and team-oriented, fragmented in terms of education, team-oriented in terms of application, just like what we're doing. But basically, what we do is just applying common sense to the human body. Like, nobody knows everything about the human body in total, so just bring a bunch of people in, and the likelihood that we together know more than as an individual is pretty freaking high, right? Statistically speaking. That's it. So, right now we have teams of 5. Maybe in the future we have teams of 8. And they're just doing other things. We're going to be pulled through this with our own education about the human body and the consumer demand for that as well. And your practice is going to be different too in the future if you're in tune with what's happening in the community. Yeah.
I have to ask this because I was talking to Emma. I've been with 24-Hour Fitness because I was grandfathered in and I paid little to nothing. But it's like my high school gym versus with this level of sophistication, interdisciplinary treatment, really to the point of disrupting modern medicine, like the 3 of us are stuck.
Mm-hmm.
You guys could potentially do that. I have a firm sense there's going to be consolidation waves over the next 24 months based on where regional banking is going, where the insurance space is going, where thus like 24-Hour and LA Fitness and perhaps UFC, there could be consolidation amongst those.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that that's like the step volleyball, how could Stark be in an advantageous position that not to circumvent that consolidation wave, but to take like anxious, well-endowed members from that, even from like equinox, like incentive, they're all going to shrink, just like 17 years ago. How can you, as like the little choo-choo that could, be in a position to take advantage of that and grow while these other guys need to shrink or just straight up go out of business?
That's a great question. So we're talking about business now, not as much the human body, but it's definitely our business and the human body are interrelated or interconnected. Thank you for asking this question. I'm not the same business person that I was when I was younger. This is more of a mission than a business to me. It's a heavy purpose-driven organization. And part of that's because when I started the business, all I had access to were a bunch of millennials. And instead of trying to convince them to be like me, I decided I'd be like them. Become an altruistic, 23-year-old in my 45-year-old body. Otherwise, it was a nightmare to manage them. So I just became like them and outsprung this beautiful business that's really in heavy pursuit of the truth. What has happened naturally is because when it comes to product development, which is service in our business, there's no thought or concern whatsoever given to cost. We figure out how the very, very best way is to, for example, fix my low back problem. Doesn't matter, like what tools, what technology, therapies, how much time it takes an individual practitioner, don't care at all. We just create the very best thing. And by virtue of that, it has propelled us far beyond any competitors, but has also pushed us up in cost because we have a lot of humans doing very sophisticated things with people inside of our ecosystem. By the nature of that and the shifts in economic categories, we have become more and more appealing to the ultra wealthy. And just naturally, they just, come in and they're like, nothing else is like this. I can afford it. I'm going to be here and I'm going to bring my whole family, my management team, and everybody else. So I think that you are going to see some consolidation and shifts in the fitness world because they're just renting machines and stuff. And it's kind of gross. I don't know about you guys. Or you think about that. This is not a facility. This is a service-based business where we're focused on leadership. Like we're trying to connect with highly sophisticated people on an emotional level and use our knowledge of the human body that we've gathered over all the testing over the last 12, 13 years to apply solutions. But the degree to which we're able to get them to follow us, which is imperative in their success, is what we try to develop at Stark. How do we connect on an emotional level, convince them that we're right, and have them follow us in a way where they feel compelled to do what we ask, even when we're not present. So when they're home and they open up that cabinet and they look at the cookies, they say, no, I will not eat that cookie tonight. So we're almost in two different universes, but because of the demand and the lack of solutions that those particular businesses provide, and it's also in medical practices as well. If you're not in functional medicine and you're a primary care physician, you're kind of a buggy whip. You kind of are. And I would guess that in your practice at some point in the future, you're going to realize I can't just do it with labs. I can't just do it with plans. I have to try to execute. And then you're going to think, oh, wait, that's what Stark is. Yeah. You're going to have to, like fitness, wellness, medicine, outside of specializations, like our plastic surgeon friend over here, they're all growing together. There's really no separation. Yeah.
All right. Oh, one more. We'll go one more.
Yeah, could you speak a little bit about the protein sources and what you found to be most efficient ones and balanced, especially for the body?
Question again?
Protein sources and
the female body.
in the female body specifically. So I grew up as a vegetarian, and I went to medical school and realized the benefits of omega-3, and then I became a pescatarian. And then I got pregnant with twins, and they told me that I had to eat 120 grams of protein every day. And I just didn't know how to do that with my current diet. And so I then started to eat chicken. And I've continued to eat chicken because I love how satiated I feel when I do eat it and incorporate it to my diet. I think you have to find food that you like to eat, that you can eat on repeat. I think that's a big part of it, because you want varied sources, but you want to be consistent in eating that protein. So I don't know if you have any dietary restrictions, but you want to eat, non-GMO, no hormones, like grass-fed, all those things, like keep those in mind, like organic, but just focus on, like what I've realized is eating 2 eggs in the morning is not going to hit your protein goals. And I used to think that that's what you would eat for breakfast in the morning, and now I eat maybe 4 egg whites, 1 egg yolk, some cottage cheese, some Greek yogurt, and maybe a protein shake later in the day, because I need it. What you think you need to eat is not what the actual, you won't hit your goal that way. So I strongly recommend reading labels and just start calculating what you need based off your body weight to see what that looks like. And once you figure that out, you can really understand, like, hey, if I go to a restaurant, this is how much 4 ounces of chicken looks like. This is how much, salmon looks like, and understand what you need to hit that goal for the meal. And for women specifically, you want to eat 30 grams of protein, ideally with every meal. That's like minimum. And that's hard to reach. And you want to incorporate that with fiber. So that's, we're talking about vegetables as well. So not just protein by itself, but you need that fiber source as well for the protein to also be absorbed properly.
I agree with all that stuff. I think that incorporating rotating protein, like chicken, beef, you're going to become a hunter. I can see it in your eyes. You're going to start hunting, and you're going to realize, oh, I need to get some venison. Oh, where do I get that? I guess I have to go shoot it like Todd. Oh, wait, maybe I need some elk. Maybe I need some wild boar. I'm not going to eat pork anymore. This is how it happens. Mm-hmm. Rotating protein sources gives you more diverse nutrition, which is a great idea. The next level below that would be like, processed proteins, like whey protein or vegan protein, or you're going to end up supplementing. Not ideal. We are about to roll out our second protein product. It was just between us guys. I don't actually use any of our protein. I just eat the food, and it's my own protein. Like, I own it because it's so much better to eat the food. So if you have to fall back on that, great. But if any of you guys want to follow me on Instagram, tomorrow morning you'll see me post my breakfast. Testosterone. That's my handle. Testosterone. Okay? So if you're on Instagram, you can find me, you can follow me. We'll become great friends. And every morning I post my breakfast video with my shirt off, because why wouldn't you, if you were 57 years old, and maybe you think you're going to lose all this pretty soon because you're so old. And you'll see exactly what I eat for breakfast. Yours would be, like this morning I had, I think, maybe 8 ounces of ground, turkey or something. And tomorrow it's going to be grass-fed beef or whatever, like a filet mignon. Seriously. The thing is, it looks just like my lunch and suspiciously similar to my dinner, too. And that's a hard thing for people to get their brains wrapped around. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to eat about 180 grams of protein. I weigh about 165 pounds. So that's about what I need. And it's very easy for me at this stage because I've been doing it for so long. And my breakfast is like that. Back to the eggs, a single egg has 6 grams of protein in it. That's a lot of eggs I'd have to eat. Like, I'm just not going to get there.
You see, but meat in particular can be quite heavy, and alternating it with like some pescatarian options sounds great, but do you hit the goal?
Yeah. So if you watch me long enough on Instagram, you'll see a salmon fillet pop up in my breakfast as well. I'm not like trying to just eat things that run around. I eat things that fly, and I eat things that swim, too. I eat all those things. Rarely do I eat eggs. I have issues with eggs. I just don't digest them very well. I hope you don't have issues with it. I would love to eat more eggs. I love them. But you're not going to see me eat a lot of breakfast food. I do eat a lot of vegetables with my breakfast. Ew, that's weird. Fermented vegetables. Every single morning, I eat a lot of fiber. I specifically take a fiber supplement, psyllium husk. I eat a lot of chia seeds. I just eat a lot, but it's very, very heavy protein. And you're doing the same thing as me, just for a smaller body and a female body.
Correct, yes. But minimum 30 grams for women, for every woman.
So what's that falling on? 1
1 ounce of protein. No, wait, it's gram.
1 gram.
1 gram.
1 gram.
For ideal body weight. So if you weigh 180 pounds, you're going to target at the start 180
Grams.
And that's
grams.
just to maintain
Yeah.
your current muscle mass.
A little bit more detailed in this. This is going to be a bit confusing to you. If your goal is to lose weight, you would be heavier on the protein and lighter on the other food sources. So you'd eat more protein to lose weight. So which female out here wants to fit into a smaller dress size? Just raise your hand. Anyone? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right up front. You would eat on the higher end of the protein than I would, because I'm not trying to get physically smaller. And when you eat protein, because it's so takes so much energy to digest it, it's so satiating, you're going to end up eating less, and it's inefficient. It uses a lot of your own energy. If you only ate protein, you will lose weight from eating protein.
Keto diet, right?
That's high fat.
Yeah, keto diet is technically like 60% fat, I believe. Does that sound right? 40% protein?
Yes, 40, 60.
Yeah, we use the ketogenic diet, I think, only when there's a Parkinson's patient or something.
For brain health, yes.
Yeah, we generally don't prescribe it for, like, somebody wants to get stronger or alter body composition.
It works, but it will alter your lipid panel.
Yeah, and
that's not worth it in a lot of cases.
In a lot of cases. And if you do it, be careful, do it slowly. I've done everything to the extreme. So I went full-on ketogenic diet. And we're going to get really intimate right here. I went into this dark bathroom, and I was standing up, peeing into the toilet, and I shat myself like a baby, right up my back, because I wasn't used to. I'm sorry, we have some people cringing. I mean, I'm in the body business. We talk about poop and penises and testes and vaginas and stuff all the time. So, if you're going to go down that road, just do it slowly, not like I did. I just didn't have the, digestive enzymes for it, because I just never consumed that massive amount of fat in such a short period of time, and I ended up with poopy pants. Yeah, luckily there's a shower. There was a shower next to the toilet. Unique feature at Stark.
All right, and I think that's a good way to end it.